Hi, welcome to Oma's Kitchen.
Oregano.
Let's make my homemade flaxseed bread in Oma's Kitchen today. This is a simple bread. It has 5 ingredients: yeast, salt, bread flour, water, and ground flaxseed. Your water needs to be a little bit warm. If it feels too warm to your pinky when you stick it in there, then it's too warm. You want it between 100 and 115 degrees. I have a thermometer, which helps. I'll put the recipe up here for you while I put the flour into the bowl of my stand mixer. You don't need a stand mixer to make this bread. You just need to do a little extra kneading, and you can mix it together by hand and then knead it for a good 10 minutes. Add a heaping tablespoon of ground flaxseed and mix it in to distribute it really well with your flour before you add anything else. Yeast works better when it doesn't touch salt directly. So when I'm adding the yeast to my flour mixture, I add it to one side of the bowl and then I cover it over with a little bit of flour. Then when I add the salt, I add it to the other side of the bowl and I cover that over with a little flour as well. I find when I do this, my bread rises better. And now you have all of your ingredients together for your bread except the water. It's nice to cook in a clean space, and particularly for something like bread, I like to clean off my countertop with a hot soapy rag and dry it off and wash my hands a lot. Test your water. Make sure you're between 100 and 115 degrees. I was at 109 degrees, so that's good. Add about 1.5 cups of the water to begin with and mix it slowly, whether you're doing it by hand or with a stand mixer. As your dough starts to come together, you can tell if it's too dry. Add a little water at a time until you see it pull away from the edges of the bowl. There are 2 reasons that I love to make homemade bread, and this flaxseed bread is one of the favorites for my family. One is it tastes wonderful and it makes the house smell really good. The other is, I don't know if you've ever looked at the package for bread you buy in the store, but it tends to have preservatives, emulsifiers, and sometimes sugar added to it. All of that is unnecessary. If you make the bread at home, this is 5 ingredients and it's all really good for you. Bread flour has a higher protein content than all-purpose flour. It helps your bread come together better. If your dough seems a little sticky at the end, add a couple of pinches of flour and mix it in. I wash my hands and my countertop a lot when I'm making food, and particularly when I'm making something like bread, because I want to knead the bread on a clean surface with freshly washed hands. Add some flour to the dough as you gather it up to pull it out of the bowl. Your dough should be soft and only slightly sticky, very pliable. I love the smell of fresh dough. Throw a little flour on your work surface, on your hands, and then knead the dough a little bit. I knead by rolling it toward me and pushing in with the heels of my hands, then turning it and doing the same process over again. I usually knead the dough for another couple of minutes and then roll it up, drop it onto the counter a couple times to get rid of any large air bubbles in it, and make it into a nice, beautiful circle of fluffy dough. I put about a tablespoon of olive oil down into a large bowl with a tight-fitting lid. If you don't have a tight-fitting lid, that's okay, just use plastic wrap. Put it face down first, kind of roll it around in the olive oil, and then flip it over. Make sure the surface is covered with olive oil. This helps your bread grow. Cover it over tightly, and then put it in a warm place. I have a bread proving button in my oven, but if you don't have that, just turn your oven on and put it near the vent and let it sit until it doubles in size. This can take 1 to 2 hours, depending on your altitude. I'm above 5,000 feet, so my bread rises quicker. It only takes about an hour for it to double in size. If you can let it sit for 2 hours before it doubles in size, the flavor's better. There it is, doubled in size. It smells so good when you open the bowl. You can see how nice and fluffy it got in there. Now you're going to want to get all those air bubbles out so you don't have big holes in your bread. The way to do that is to take your freshly washed hands and push your knuckles down into the dough to flatten it. Try to get it as flat as you can because the puffiness comes from the air bubbles. Roll it up on itself, kind of tight. And you can pick it up out of the bowl at that point. And then I like to roll it in the opposite direction and tuck in underneath. So what you end up with is this tightly packed roll of dough. Kind of smack it around a little bit, get the air bubbles out. And then I sort of shape it into an oval shape. And I'm going to put it on a cookie tray with a piece of parchment paper on it. And I put it on there diagonally because I want to have room for those wine glasses in the background to hold up the plastic wrap. I will need to cover the dough so it doesn't dry out for its second rise of 30 to 45 minutes. The wine glasses hold the plastic wrap up off the dough. This is a serrated knife to cut some slits across the top of the dough. I make those about a ½ inch deep, and they help the dough to rise better. Set the wine glasses upside down on either side of the bread, and then get a big enough piece of plastic, or two, to cover the whole thing. Set this tray on top of your oven as you preheat it to 400 degrees. The warmth from your oven will help your bread do its final proof. After 30 to 45 minutes, your bread should be noticeably puffy. Unwrap it, remove the wine glasses, and put it in your preheated 400-degree oven. Bake for 30 minutes. It makes the house smell so good. And here it is, this beautiful flaxseed bread. And when you pick it up, it should sound hollow when you tap it. That's how you know it's completely finished and cooked through. You'll also notice that it has a little bit of an area at the bottom where it looks a little too tall. That means it's just a little overproofed, and it's because I live at altitude. Look at that. You can see the steam come out of there. This is nice, soft, crusty bread. Yeah. Thank you for joining me in Oma's Kitchen. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll upload more tasty videos soon, and a special shout out to Moon Pie and Lil Bit. Till next time.
Oregano.